Hello, Oklahoma Sooners fans and college football fans all alike. Welcome into Oklahoma Sooners Live. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at RealJoshMahler. And make sure to follow the voice of college football on social media as well at the VOCFB. So that's at THEVOCFB. Follow on social media to keep up with this show and so much more within this network. If you're a fan of just college football in general, this is the place to go. So make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. We're going to jump in and talk a little bit about the Oklahoma Sooners and some of their recruiting here recently, specifically into the 2026 class, another one that could be effective immediately this upcoming season. So a lot of fun stuff. I do apologize, a little late getting to the live stream tonight. But as usual, you can join here on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Usually, just a little bit late. I was down in Omaha and going to the College World Series today, so I still live pretty close to there right now. So was able to catch the Oregon State-Louisville game. Very fun one, very exciting. Went down to the bottom of the ninth inning for Louisville to walk it off and to return the favor against Oregon State, who walked them off in game one of the College World Series. So really fun game, really excited to be able to go down there. And I'll be down there a little bit more this week too, but got a little, a little bit of a late get to the live show tonight because of that. So anyways, make sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And we don't have a lot to talk about today. So if you would, post in the live chat, jump in the live chat and post your questions, comments, concerns about this upcoming football season. So if you started off with, let's just say, VOCFB questions, I don't know, something, we'll think of something to start it off with. I'll try to keep my eye on it. If you ask a question, I will get to those questions in a mailbag. I also have a post that I posted out on X that I've got to keep my eye on as well, because we had a couple of questions come in over there. But make sure to ask your questions in the live chat. I will try to get to those very soon. And I know I had a couple of DMs come in as well with some questions, so would love to get to those. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. If you're watching on X, just hit share real quick. But let's jump into it and talk some Oklahoma football. Of course, you can ask more than just football questions if you want. I do cover baseball for OU Insider and so much more. So, that's definitely on the table. But let's go ahead and jump into it, because Oklahoma had a big time commit this past weekend. It would have happened, I believe, on Sunday. Might have been yesterday that it was broken. But it was really good news for Oklahoma going into the 2026 cycle and taking a look at what they've got going, because it would have been Oklahoma's first running back in the cycle, the number 18 running back in the 2026 class, and that is DeZephen Walker. And I might be pronouncing his first name wrong, but he's a great running back, a 4-star running back that Oklahoma picked up. And it was definitely a good blue chip running back to pick up. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds, out of Peculiar, Missouri. Overall, this was a pickup. It was kind of shocking, a little bit shocking, but it was a good pickup for Oklahoma for obvious reasons. If you go and look at some of his highlight tape from what he's got, it's very, very fun, very exciting. He's never been to the campus before this past weekend, which was kind of what made this a little bit of a shocker. The fact that Walker, he had never been to Oklahoma, never been around Oklahoma. And in fact, I think it's only been maybe 6 weeks. It was just very short time ago that Oklahoma even offered a scholarship to Walker. So it was kind of crazy that he ended up picking Oklahoma, who is the latest on his recruitment trail. Just considering that other teams that would have been kind of all in on him for quite some time, he really had, he had several others. I know there was Nebraska, Kansas State, and I feel like there's some others in there too that had a little bit more familiarity with DeZephen Walker, and what he was looking for. I mean, he had been in contact with these schools for quite some time, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Oklahoma comes up on the scene, and it seemed like that was, I mentioned it whenever Oklahoma first scheduled the visit with Walker here on this channel, that, this is a guy that Oklahoma was looking forward to. Oklahoma was hoping to be able to get their foot in the door, and they felt pretty good about their chances. Obviously there was a couple of other schools that seemed to be creeping in, and mainly that Nebraska, Kansas, and Kansas State were the ones that seemed to really be all in on Walker, mainly because of just how long they have been eyeing him and how often they had been contacting him. So the fact that he came in this past weekend, went and visited Oklahoma, and right off the bat, he was there. He was ready to go. He wanted Oklahoma. It was obviously Oklahoma had a lot of disadvantages too when it came to this recruitment trail with DeZephen Walker, which again just made it even that much more surprising that we heard of this commitment this soon and this quickly after Oklahoma's visit. The first time he visits campus and he's ready to say, this is it. This is where I want to go. He had a visit scheduled for June 20th with Nebraska. So he was going to go to Lincoln, Nebraska, go visit there, ended up canceling that and deciding, hey, I'm just going to make my commitment here with Oklahoma. And for those of you who know, Brent Venables kind of has a rule. I don't know how strict this rule is, but he does have a rule with any kind of commitment. If you're going to make a commitment to me, then you're done with visiting. You're not going to other schools. That's kind of his rule that he sets for those who commit. So for recruits that are committing to Oklahoma, he tells them don't commit until you've had all your visits. Go take your visits if you want to, but if you're visiting, I don't want you to take those visits. Now, I don't know how strict he is on those, but that's something. And so obviously Walker ends up committing to Oklahoma, and really too, if you think about those other three, it was more with the how close to home he would have been with the other three, which Oklahoma's not that much further. But Peculiar, Missouri would have been closer to either Lincoln, Manhattan, or Lawrence. So it would have been a little bit closer. That was one reason why I think those are the three that really jumped out as being the leaders for his commitment. But then Oklahoma jumping in really isn't that much further of a travel from home. But ultimately, so it was when he gave his commitment to Oklahoma, that pretty much sealed the deal. And I know Parker Thune over with OU Insider. Parker's a great friend. He had a little bit of an interview with him and talked to him, and he asked Walker when it was that he actually made that commitment, when he actually decided that this is where he's going. And he told Parker Thune over on OU Insider that it was actually Sunday right before he left that he made that commitment. And, they were all fired up. All the coaching staff was fired up, very excited. Obviously, with DeMarco Murray and Brent Venables probably being the two bigger ones in there. I'm sure Ben Arbuckle, big one on his recruitment as well. He said that they were all fired up. They were very surprised, and rightfully so. It's kind of a shock that after coming to Oklahoma just one time, he's like, I'm good. I'm going to cancel my other visits. I'm ready to go. Let's go here. So, the fact that he did that, it was a lot of fun. It was pretty awesome that he made his commitment that quickly for Oklahoma. He even mentioned to Parker Thune over at OU Insider. He said, Coach Murray, he really emphasized that he liked his explosive speed. That's one thing that DeMarco Murray really likes, and he thinks that DeMarco Murray thinks that DeZephen Walker can help this offense with those big explosive plays, and even the fact that he feels that as a freshman, Walker might be able to come in and even make some kind of play for the team. I don't know how often he'll see the field, but he feels like he's going to be able to figure something out to where he fits the offense well enough to where he'll be in there even as a freshman, which is pretty big. And then, of course, being able to develop on top of that, really, really big. So DeMarco Murray, big time, he was pushing really hard for this. As soon as he started making those calls to Walker, offering that scholarship, and then trying to work it out with him, it's been a very tedious process for DeMarco Murray as he's been trying to get in on this. He wants Walker to come to Oklahoma, and so he's been pushing really hard for it, which was really obvious too. With again, the fact that they were able to flip this thing around in just a few weeks. And so it really not that long of a recruiting relationship with Walker, and they were able to turn it around. So, and DeMarco Murray was a big reason why Walker was even interested in Oklahoma, because he's said this before, that he believes that, I mean, DeMarco Murray is an OU guy and is also an NFL guy. He's been to the league. He knows what it takes to get to the league, and that's ultimately what most of these kids' goal is. Yes, I think NIL kind of makes it a little bit more confusing as far as when should I go? Should I just take my money while I've got it here and maybe go for another year of certainty here at the college level? But there's still a longevity that you aim for getting into the league and being able to do it there. So yeah, I mean, there's obvious reasons too that you want to make it to the league. You want to make it there where you can get in there. You can knowing that DeMarco Murray knows what it takes. That's the big thing that really drew him in. So this is one of the biggest recruits on the top of my mind. One of the biggest running back recruits that DeMarco Murray has gotten, which is really big for him. And again, like I said, the first running back of this 2026 cycle for Oklahoma as a whole. So DeZephen Walker, really good recruit, really good commit that Oklahoma got, and that's the commit that Oklahoma is really focusing in on right now, because it's important. The running back room is going to dwindle down in this upcoming offseason. You think of guys like Javonte Barnes, older guy, and I don't know how much Jaden Ott is going to be there. I think he has 2 years of eligibility. Don't hold me to that, but will he just take off after this season? Who knows? And I think adding a guy like Walker is really good for Oklahoma going forward. So this is a really big commit. Obviously not breaking news anymore. This happened, I believe, yeah, it was either yesterday or Sunday that the news broke on that too. And huge shout out to Parker Thune over at OU Insider too. He's the one that I saw break that one. But going on, Oklahoma also had a big visit, a big official visit coming in with an Oklahoma Legend's brother. So Tony Jefferson's younger brother. I'd been seeing Tony Jefferson post about his younger brother out on kind of on the recruiting trail, on trying to figure out where his next college would be. He's a JUCO tight end, and he's coming in. His name is Josiah Jefferson. He decided to come to Oklahoma for an official visit. He's been there on unofficial visits, I believe, at least a couple of times that I've seen here recently. He was at one of the recent camps. I saw Brandon Drum kind of mention that, and he knows Oklahoma. He's obviously, because of his brother. His brother's a very vocal Oklahoma alum, a guy that loves his former college and speaks very highly of it. And so, and a guy that would not surprise me if Tony Jefferson came to join the Oklahoma coaching staff one of these days. I know that he's kind of had his foot in the door whenever he took a little bit of a break, and I forget the role that he was, but now back with the Chargers right now, Tony Jefferson is. But anyways, Josiah Jefferson, his younger brother, came into Oklahoma this past weekend. I know for sure he was there on Saturday. I don't know how long he stayed, but he came in, and he's a JUCO tight end that could start and add to this tight end room in 2025. Obviously, I think there are some hurdles that go through that. I don't know exactly the process for a JUCO tight end to come transfer in at this point in time and what that would look like, but it's very possible that he could contribute to this team in 2025. Now, how much chemistry would he have with the team, and how much do we really want him? And I don't know, but the fact that he's 6'5", 230 pounds, as athletic as he is, I've looked up some of the tape on him, and he's an extremely athletic tight end, especially for being 6'5" and 230 pounds. So it's a big dude, a dude that he's able to get his body in there and get on a block. And he's also able to get out there again with his athleticism, being 6'5", going up over top. He's that big, sure hands tight end, that sure target that you go to on a third down and third down and short, or down on the goal line, or being able to rely on him to be able to block. He's the type of tight end that you could set out on different kinds of tight end screens and stuff like that. Even those, I know in recent times Oklahoma doesn't like that. I get it, but those are the type of plays that you can run with a guy like Josiah Jefferson. Again, I encourage you go look up. I know my buddy Jay Smith. If you guys know Unfair Sports, Jay Smith, he posted a video from Hurdle with no, that was with Walker. I don't remember who it was that posted a video. I'll try to get that and I'll try to share that as well on social media. But it was a fun highlight clip, and it was just showing his ability and what he's capable of, his potential. And Josiah Jefferson, he can be a big get for Oklahoma, especially the fact that he could add to Oklahoma in 2025. It could be really big. And Brandon Drum with OU Insider, he even mentioned that he talked with Josiah, and Josiah mentioned that he believes he'll be ready to make his commitment soon. He thinks that he's going to make his decision soon. And I know Brandon believes it'd be between, I forget which day he was saying it was, but he thinks it'll be sometime this week, and which could be today, tomorrow, who knows. Hopefully that's coming soon. And for every reason out there, it just seems easy to believe that Oklahoma is in the front seat, the driver's seat for that commitment from Josiah Jefferson. Obviously, with his brother being a vocal Oklahoma alum and so much more, just seems like Oklahoma is the place to go. I know he mentioned something, Brandon Drum mentioned something that when he was talking to Josiah, he was mentioning how Norman just kind of feels like a second home to him. Obviously, with his brother having gone there before, he had been there a lot in the past. He had visited kind of unofficial visits, been to camps, and then now coming on this official visit. It just makes sense. The teams that Oklahoma is battling out would be with Washington State, UNLV, Arizona, Maryland, Boise State, Cal, and Utah. So there's a couple of names in there that stand out that could be some big teams to go to. I think the ones that really stand out the most to me would be Arizona, maybe Boise State, and maybe even Cal or Utah, just because those are kind of bigger schools, more ability to win. But I don't know how much that goes into decisions anymore today. Ultimately, though, you look at those: Washington State, UNLV, Arizona, Maryland, Boise State, Cal, and Utah. Oklahoma is just the biggest brand out of all of those schools that are fighting for his commitment. Oklahoma is the biggest brand there in out of all of those schools, and even with that, Oklahoma also has their foot in the door with Tony Jefferson. I feel I don't want to get our hopes up. I don't want us to believe that we've got a big tight end, that there's going to be a good tight end committing here in the next few days. But it just seems like that's the way it's going. And I'll try to keep you guys updated as much as I can on that. And yes, I do use OU Insider as most of my sources, because I do work with OU Insider, not on this channel, but I do work with OU Insider. So that's usually my sources for anything as far as Oklahoma football. As far as every once in a while I'll venture out and I'll look at other sources as well. But I encourage you guys to go check out OU Insider, because that's my second home when it comes to content, recruiting, and all that. I'm going to jump into a mailbag. I'm going to jump to the live chat. Again, like I said, it's I didn't have a whole lot to talk about today. I just didn't have a whole lot of time to really put too much together. Wanted to get some of this stuff out earlier in a separate video, but just couldn't get to it. I should have some more time this week to even get a few more things kind of put together. But anyways, looking through the chat real quick, I will get to the live chat. I'll jump into there a little bit real quick before I get to questions, because I'm going to get into the mailbag. I see 1982. He says 1982 Boomer Sooner. He says Boomer Sooner, right back to you. And he says, love my Sooners with all my heart. Absolutely, man. I think it's crazy how much being a fan can kind of take over your life, isn't it? Speaking from experience. Yeah, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit of fun being a fan. Anyways, like I said, drop some questions. I do see some questions. I do see some questions down there, and I'm not going to get to those just yet. I see quite a bit in here. I gotta jump in. Bishop right here, Bishop Frank. He says Josh Mahler spitting fire. Big salute, fam. Yeah, salute right back to you, Bishop. Um, gotta make sure I'm not gonna get to the questions just yet. Go ahead and drop your questions in the chat because I'm marking those as I go through, and I'm going to try to get to those, as many of them as I can. Throw those in the chat real quick for me. But I know that there was some that I got on social media earlier today, so let me jump over to those real quick, just because I don't want to. I'm going to try to go in chronological order. I know the first question I saw that came in, this was from Randy over on X. He says, who do you think lead? So this is a multi-part question. I'm going to start off with the first one. Who do you think leads OU in receiving yards? I feel like that's a trick question. Who's going to lead OU in receiving yards in 2025? Who's going to be healthy in 2025? That's what I want to know. Who's going to be healthy? Because as long as I know who's going to be healthy, then I could probably give you a better answer. So far from what we've seen, I know that John Mateer has a really good chemistry with Giovanni Gibson. And I think he could be a big guy for John Mateer to go to. He also had some pretty good chemistry back in the spring with Isaiah Satania. Of course, with Giovanni Gibson, there's a little bit of concern with health there. And as Oklahoma fans, we're worried about wide receiver health already as it is. Satania, I think a little bit of health concern, not as much. So I'm going to say Isaiah Satania would probably be one. But I think the leading receiver just seems to be obvious to me. I think Deion Burks would be the leading receiver, and that's the easy pick to go to. But the way that he works in the slot, we saw a little bit of what he's capable of last season, and obviously not as much as we would have liked, but we did see a little bit last season. So, I mean, we know that he's kind of that Drake Stoops like, I don't like giving the comparisons, but he's kind of that Drake Stoops like receiver, that slot that's able to get open in the middle of the field. He kind of gives you that tight end type of sure hands, but then also shows a lot of speed, shows a lot of potential there. So I'm going to say Deion Burks. That's my pick for who ends up leading in receiving yards. The second part. What road game do you think OU can win? Let's see here. What road game do you think OU can win that the national media wouldn't give them much of a chance to? Let me pull up the Oklahoma schedule real quick because I want to make sure I've got it in front of me. Oklahoma football schedule. I'm going to pull this up. That's a really good question. Which game do I think Oklahoma could win that the national media would not give them the upper edge on? It depends. Really, I mean, this is a really big a really big talking point for Oklahoma because I think Oklahoma would be counted out in a few of these games. So I think diving through here, Oklahoma would probably be counted out against Texas, against, I don't know, it's going to be a coin flip there, at Alabama and LSU. I think I had 4 fingers up, but just 3. So those are the 3 that I think the media would say Oklahoma won't win. So if I were to take my guess and what I've heard, I think the media kind of gives a coin flip to Oklahoma against Michigan, gives a coin flip against South Carolina, Ole Miss, and even Tennessee. So I'll say between LSU, Alabama, and Texas. Those are the 3 that I'll say would be the media. I would say majority of the media would probably be against Oklahoma there, being able to win those games. So, man, I don't know. I think Oklahoma has a chance in any of them. We've been talking about this quite a bit with Oklahoma. The big reason why they have a chance in any game this season, and I think a reason why Oklahoma has a chance at some big-time games and some big-time wins is just because, Oklahoma has an offense this year. Are they going to digress? I think the bigger question is, do you think Oklahoma's defense is going to be just as good as last season? I think I think the defense should be just as good. I think the biggest thing that you see with Oklahoma is you don't have that defensive leader that you had in Danny Stutzman. And then, of course, Billy Bowman. I think you have some guys that are able to step into that similar role for Billy Bowman. And then you've even got linebackers that will be able to help out and be able to rotate in and out and step up. I think Kip Lewis is going to have a huge step forward this season. I think he can have a Danny Stutzman-like jump from maybe Danny's sophomore to junior year. I think you can see that out of Kip Lewis. Now, I mean, he was phenomenal last season. The Kip Sixes, that's what we remember. And so as long as Oklahoma's defense is just as good as last season or possibly better, why couldn't they pull off any of those three? But I'll say the toughest one preseason for me will be LSU. That's the one that I think LSU is going to be the toughest team in the SEC this upcoming season, outside of maybe Georgia, just because it's Kirby Smart's Georgia. But I think LSU is like the true front leader contender for the SEC championship game, for the championship overall. I think they're your my preseason champions of the SEC. So I'll say LSU would be the team that I don't know if Oklahoma wins, but that's the biggest one to me, that Oklahoma has a chance. So I guess I'll throw that out there. But give me your guys' thoughts too. I'd love to hear from you guys there. I do see we have a super chat. Thank you very much, Bishop. You the man. We got a $3.33 super chat. That's going to be able to help go towards my beverage tomorrow at the College World Series. He says, OU Sooners 11-1 and playoffs. Boomer. Sooner, right back at you. Man, I mean, this is a total possibility. Again, for the same reasons that I gave. So if you guys were tuned in last Thursday, Jackson called in last Thursday and joined the show, and he was asking about the comparison between Oklahoma this upcoming season and Clemson. I believe it was 2011. That would have been Brent Venables' first season being hired in at Clemson, and then seeing the huge step forward that they took. And I think they won 9 or 10 games that season, went to the ACC championship game. I believe they lost the ACC championship game. They might have won. But anyways, that was a huge season for them. And so I told Jackson, man, like that's actually a really good comparison, but just the flipped, kind of a role reversal there, because with Oklahoma this upcoming season, it's really more about the Oklahoma adding a new big-time offensive coordinator, had to get the offense right, where Clemson had to get the defense right. So, I think that's kind of the difference there, but very similar. So, Oklahoma has every right to go in here and every chance, every possibility to go in here and win 10 or 11 games. And honestly, too, I think if you look at Oklahoma's record, so if you look at Oklahoma's schedule, one of, if not the toughest, I think Florida gets the edge on Oklahoma once again. But I think Oklahoma has one of the toughest schedules. I'd say top 5, top 3 toughest schedules in the nation. So if Oklahoma were to go 9-3, and this schedule proved to be as tough as we believe it is preseason, I think with 9-3, Oklahoma's got a shot of making it into the playoffs. And if they go 9-3, let's say that one of those losses is to Michigan early in the season, and Michigan's good. This is like imagining that Michigan is going to the Big Ten championship game, but then they lose to Ohio State. Let's say that that's the scenario where Michigan's that good, where they're one win away from going to the Big Ten championship game, and that's Oklahoma's one of 3 losses. So Oklahoma goes 9-3. That's the scenario where I see Oklahoma making it into the playoffs, going 9-3, because that means you went with just 2 losses in the SEC. That's 6-2 in the SEC. I mean, that's a total role reversal. If I can get my tongue to cooperate with me there, a role reversal for Oklahoma, where they went 2-6 last season in the SEC, and turning it around to go 6-2 would be huge. So I think there's a huge possibility. But again, thank you, Bishop, for the donation. I'll also throw Bishop's other question. He says, what's your areas of concern to strengthen before this season? I think the corner roles are what I'm really concerned about. There's some teams, I think you've got Auburn on the schedule. Texas is always going to have those uh, freaky wide receivers. Again, Alabama's going to have a good wide receiver room going into this season. Let me pull that schedule back up. Um, Tennessee, you have to worry a little bit, but I'm not as worried about Tennessee because I don't know who their quarterback's going to be. South Carolina is another one that you really need to have locked down on the passing defense, and then LSU. So I mean, you've got a lot of teams this upcoming season that I want the corners to be locked in. Everything else, I mean, I guess I'm concerned about the health over on the offensive side of the ball, and so I think that's an obvious one for Oklahoma fans. But I do think that if I were to assume a completely healthy Oklahoma team going in, both offense and defense, a reasonably healthy Oklahoma team, I would say the corners, just because that's my biggest concern. I just don't know what's there. I think there's a really good chance that Oklahoma could be good there in that cornerback room, but can we get another guy to step in? And I know I've talked about this in the past too. Can we get another guy to step in and be an Eli Bowen in that corner room? So because the main reason why that's my concern is just because how much of a depth does Oklahoma have there? That's my only concern. Not that I don't think that Oklahoma's experienced there. It's just what's the depth there? So thanks for the question there, Bishop. 1982 Boomer Sooner says, what's running back depth chart? My opinion, and this comes with really total speculation, my opinion is that it will be Jaden Ott. And then, man, this is where it becomes tricky. How healthy is Javonte Barnes? If Javonte Barnes is healthy, I think he's your number two, and kind of splitting that number two with probably Xavier Robinson. Xavier Robinson should be up there. I don't know, because why did it take them so long to get him into the rotation last season, and then after the Alabama game not even really play him and not hardly give Xavier Robinson the ball in the bowl game? I don't know. So I believe X will be up there. So I think you're going to have Jaden Ott, your number one, as long as he stays healthy. And as long as Javonte Barnes is healthy, I think he's going to kind of split your number two. And then you've got Taylor Tatum there at your number three. And there's a couple of guys too that might be able to maybe split that number three. I think Taylor Tatum will get quite a bit of playing time this season. I think they've been working with him a lot too on that fumbling issue. That's the big thing. He can be such a great running back. Taylor Tatum can be out of the backfield. He can be a great guy to pass the ball to. So I think my personal opinion, total speculation, would be that you have Jaden Ott number one, Javonte Barnes and Xavier Robinson at number two, and then you've got Taylor Tatum at number three. So that's kind of my top three. I'm not really sure if I need to go too much deeper down the chart than that. Gmo over on X, he says, what position is your biggest concern entering the season? So similar, I guess. So this, I don't know if this would be the same. I'll flip this a little bit because it's the same question, but I'll come at it at a different light. Just because it's I think the biggest one to work on getting into the season would be corners. Now, my biggest concern entering the season, what position is my biggest concern? I don't know. It's split between offensive line and wide receiver. Which one should I go with? I'll say to flip it, I think offensive line would be my second, just because we've heard a lot of good things out of the spring football about this offensive line, that there's actually a competitiveness there, that they're actually battling with the defensive line, which is really good to hear. And so I'm concerned, but again, I think a lot of that falls on injury. And then I would say, so I think if I were to rank them, I think I want to make sure, and it's not that I don't think Oklahoma can be good in the cornerback room. It's just that I want the corners to be top notch, and I want that to be better than it was last season. And I think there's a couple of guys that you can blame on that last season, where there was big chunk plays, specifically against Tennessee and I'm trying to think. Auburn had a few chunk plays too, and it just seemed to always be the same guys, same couple of guys that were being the issue there. So corner would be my one to work on and be elite. I want an elite defensive backs room, the entire DB room. I feel confident in the safeties for Oklahoma. So I'm going to say corner. Then offensive line. I need the offensive line to be healthy this year. As long as they're healthy, I think Oklahoma has a lot to look forward to in the offensive line. Some returning guys, some guys that fill in roles that Oklahoma needed, guys like Derek Simmons. You possibly have some guys like a couple of freshmen that step in and are in those roles a little bit, maybe even rotating in and out. I don't know how they're going to work all of that, but yeah, so the offensive line would be number 2. Wide receiver room would be number 3, because even with a banged up wide receiver room, I think Oklahoma should look pretty good in the wide receiver room. So that would kind of be my 3 there. Let me go over back to the chat real quick. I had those all marked. Mars Jams jumps in. He says, I believe Oklahoma will go undefeated at home this season, back to the early 2000s defense. Yeah, I mean, it's back to the early 2000s defense for sure. So, I mean, why not? Let's see, at home. You've got Illinois State. Michigan's a tough one, but I think Oklahoma pulls it off. Right now, I feel like Oklahoma wins that one. Then you've got Auburn at home, Kent State at home. I think Oklahoma should be able to win both of those. Ole Miss will be a tough one, but I feel like Ole Miss is going to be good, but I feel like Oklahoma should have beat Ole Miss in Oxford last season. So you give us the home field advantage. I think Oklahoma has that. And then you've got Missouri. LSU is the only home game that I'm concerned about, but Oklahoma can flip things around, and Oklahoma, if Oklahoma can come out looking like the Oklahoma team that we're anticipating, the Oklahoma team that we're hopeful for, then you know what? By all means, that's the team that I think Oklahoma has a really good chance of surprising people this season. It's just the thing that concerns me, and I'm sure with a lot of you guys as well, is just the fact that Oklahoma could they're out on the front line to say. I think a lot of media, you've got Josh Pate, JD Pickell, my guy Jake Crane even mentioned Oklahoma as being a sleeper, one of those teams to watch out for. A lot of people are watching Oklahoma. A lot of people are recognizing Oklahoma and the moves that they've made. So that's the only thing that kind of has me a little bit concerned with Oklahoma. So I think that's the only thing that really has me concerned about Oklahoma. I know I had some DMs come in. Let me pull these up real quick. See if I can find them. Had a couple of DMs come in with some questions. How will the new offensive coordinator Ben Arbuckle and quarterback transform this offense? I've talked quite a bit about this on the show already, but I'll kind of repeat my thoughts. I think Oklahoma, this offense is transformed because last season, for example, you had a new offensive coordinator, kind of a new scheme with the offensive coordinator, and you had Jackson Arnold, who was a young quarterback and had to try to adapt and figure out this Oklahoma new Oklahoma offense, similar to what he was running before, but it was totally different with a new personnel and everything. So I think with that, there was a lot of learning. So there was a lot that was kind of, Oklahoma was handicapped a little bit because of how much it had to learn. Where this upcoming season, you've got John Mateer coming over with Ben Arbuckle, and this is something that I know I'm not the first one to say this, but you've got John Mateer coming over with Ben Arbuckle and helping Ben Arbuckle instill this offense into the personnel, into the players around. So that's where I think Oklahoma is going to be transformed on offense. Now, you can have some concerns on the front and the offensive line. It can't get worse than last season, so it's got to be better, right? And so if it's better, hey, kudos. There we go. So, that's the big thing. So, and then on top of that, Ben Arbuckle, even though I think a lot of people mistake his offense for being kind of an air raid type offense, he really likes the run game. He doesn't really utilize the quarterback run as often as people think either, just because of John Mateer's numbers a lot of that was him breaking down plays and figuring out how to use his legs when there's green grass ahead. So the way I think that this all transforms, I think the reason, so if Ben Arbuckle was coming in and had to teach his system, which is quite different than what Oklahoma ran a season ago, if he had to try to teach that system to Michael Hawkins, then I have some concerns about this offense really working the way that it did in the past for Ben Arbuckle. But because John Mateer comes in with the system, his third year into the system, going into his third year in this system, and being able to help other guys and have that peer-on-peer coaching, as well as Ben Arbuckle jumping in and kind of showing some of that, I think there's a lot to be excited for with Oklahoma and what they're able to do with this offense. So that's how I think they transform it, is just the fact that you've got a quarterback that understands it, and then everyone else just has to learn their role. And the quarterback is the hardest thing, the most difficult piece of the puzzle to make sure that everything's going good. Because if you don't have a quarterback that's able to run your system, then you're pretty well screwed. It's like trying to. I mean, I was just watching some baseball today. It's like throwing your team into the College World Series and you only have one good pitcher in your pitching staff. It's not going to go very far. Probably not a very good comparison there, but yeah, I mean, you've got to have a quarterback that's able to understand and fulfill the system. You know, that's the big thing, and Oklahoma has that. So John Mateer knows this system. It's just up to the guys around him to be able to make their plays. And I feel pretty confident that should be just fine, especially with the portal additions that Oklahoma made. And, you know, Oklahoma kind of took, I've seen a lot of comparisons to this too. They kind of took that Moneyball approach. If you've seen the movie with Brad Pitt, going for that diamond in the rough. And they did that quite a bit throughout this portal season. They got some guys that are big time. You had arguably the top running back and arguably the top quarterback in all of the portal, and so, I mean, you add both of those guys and you got a couple of really big offensive linemen out of the portal, but when it came down to receiver, you got a guy out of Arkansas Pine Bluff. You got some guys that really weren't huge, big time names in the portal. And then you even kind of look at some of the recruiting trends, and it's starting to kind of lean that way. But if you really dive into these diamonds in the rough, you see what they were seeing. And in fact, Oklahoma has been the first one to a few of the recruits that they've gone after in the recruiting and transfer portal. And a big part of that is Jim Nagy and what he's done to help with recruiting. So that it's definitely helped in playing a part in that role. But so that's where I think Oklahoma is really on the right track. I feel optimistic about Oklahoma's future. Here's the last one that I will get to, unless you guys drop more in the chat. So jump in the live chat, ask questions if you have a question about the 2025 season that you would like to be answered. So, how will the Red River rivalry against Texas play out? Man, last season, 34-3, Oklahoma got completely routed. That's 2 out of the 3 years that Brent Venables has not been able to score on Texas. That has to be eating at this team, and I think it ate at the team in 2023 whenever they came out and had the big game and really were the more physical, not the better team. I really don't think when you compare rosters in 2023, I don't think Oklahoma was the better team with when you look down the roster and compare position groups, but they were the aggressor in that game in 2023. Last season was very obvious that Oklahoma wasn't really the better team when it came down to jumping down and looking at man on man. They weren't the better roster, and they were just, offensive coordinating was just, it was bad last season. But here's what I took away from it last season. So in the first half, I felt like Oklahoma's game plan fit better to what it should have been, kind of simplifying that RPO that both quarterbacks struggled with. And I felt like Michael Hawkins had a game plan that he could have worked with, but it was in a big-time environment and in a big-time game, rattling game. And, I just didn't feel like he performed to the best of his capabilities. So that's kind of where I stood last season at that Texas game, where I felt like the game plan really wasn't too bad. And then when it felt like he started to get a little more comfortable in the game, they started throwing a little bit more of that complex RPO system. And what I mean by that too, so if you look at some of the RPO plays, so there's several types of RPO plays. So there can be an RPO where you're looking at one screen or one bubble, maybe one slant route. You're looking at one route. Everything else is blocking for a run and maybe some blocking for that possible screen. So you're looking and you're trying to read two, maybe three guys, and you have to have a good feel for where everything's going. So if you're the quarterback, you're going to hand that off, and that's kind of your go-to play. The offensive line is moving forward as a run block. So the defense is seeing run when they see that, because they see the offensive line moving forward. They see them jumping at you. So they see run. So they're biting down on run. Now, sometimes defenses also read the pass option in that run pass option, and they go out at that. So if they're going out towards that pass, you hand it off and let your running back do his work and hope that your offensive line makes their blocks. But if you see the defense reading run and they're coming down on run, then you pop it out. There's other RPO schemes where you've got 2, 3. I've seen some plays that even come down to 4 pass options in there. And so that's what Oklahoma was dealing with a lot last season, where there wasn't that simple 1-2 route option. There was more 3 route options. I feel like that is, with a quarterback that's able to make those reads, sure, but I even think you're just setting your quarterback up for failure in those situations, and that proved to be the case a lot last season. So that was Oklahoma's biggest downfall last season, was just that complex RPO scheme. And I think even when you look at Hugh Freeze, I think he had to adjust a lot with Peyton Thorne going to Peyton Thorne's second season. Last season, I felt like Hugh Freeze tried to kind of move his playbook around and tend to go away from some of that complex RPO system where you have several reads, and try to go to some simpler reads, but he didn't really do it as much as he should have. Oklahoma was in the same boat, where they should have gotten rid of a lot of those RPO reads. I like the RPO when it's that simple 1-2 route. You've got 1 or 2 routes to look at. But when you start to get complex, and you've got to, I think the slant routes are really hard to read, because, for example, you look at what Auburn did against Oklahoma to really seal the deal in that game, when Peyton Thorne, I think on the first jump he read the run block, or the run stop. So he read the defense coming down. Kip Lewis took one or two, maybe 2.5 steps down towards the offensive line. And that's what Peyton Thorne read, and there's a slant coming across. But then Kip Lewis was fast enough to drop back and jump back into that coverage, and by then it was too late, and Peyton Thorne threw that, and that receiver's coming across into that lane. That's where I think the slants are even trickier. Where you've got anything behind the line, you're a lot more safe there. You're a lot more safe to throw it behind the line, because they might blow it up and maybe knock it free. They might blow it up and get you behind the line, but it's going to be harder for the defense to get back into the line and be able to jump that route. Now, if they do jump that route, then they're probably taking it for 6. We saw that. I guess we didn't see that, but for example, Eli Bowen did that against Alabama last season, where he had a big interception there. Could have taken it for 6 possibly if he would have been a little quicker, maybe got an extra blocker in there a little quicker. But being able to jump the gap, I mean, it doesn't happen as often when you've got those bubbles. Plus, and especially when you've got a quarterback that's able to read that a little bit better. So anyways, the RPO system was a big problem for Oklahoma last season, and they just didn't know how to go away from it. I feel like Seth Luttrell kept on trying to feed that in. When Seth Luttrell left, Oklahoma got rid of a lot of that. And I feel like Joe John Finley was like, I'm gonna give you guys what I can, but he couldn't have really done a whole lot last season. You couldn't have expected him to really change much with the playbook last season, mid-season. So that was kind of where it was at. Obviously, Joe John Finley, I didn't think he should have stayed in that role as offensive coordinator or anything like that. And I don't know what he could have done in that role. I don't know. I know a lot of Oklahoma fans and their opinions on Joe John Finley. Anyways, hopefully that was a good breakdown of the RPO. For those of you who don't know the RPO very well, and I probably don't do it justice either. Uh, I'm no quarterback wizard or football, high IQ football guy. I mean, I think I have a higher IQ than average, but and I can break down plays a little bit, but I'd be more than willing to break down more in the future. But that's all we've got for you guys tonight, folks. I appreciate everybody for jumping in the live chat. Make sure to tune in again on Thursday at 7 p.m. Central Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. Thursday is going to be a live call-in show, so make sure to jump back in here on this channel for a live call-in show. We will have that on Thursday at 7 p.m. And then also on next Monday and Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time as well. We're kind of keeping it at 7, so maybe we can keep that going. Anyways, I appreciate you all so much for jumping in, for tuning in with us, and you know what? We'll catch you guys next time. Boomer.